Hello everyone, and welcome to my channel, and welcome back to Deadlock. I hope you guys are all doing well tonight, and I'm so glad that you are able to join me for this episode where we'll be reading some more backstories. I hope that you enjoy the nice music and find it calming and relaxing. And tonight, I wanted to just read the last of the backstories that I have. So that will be Celeste, Lash, Holiday, Yamato, Shiv, Wraith, Pocket, and Mirage. Without further ado, let's get started, shall we? First up, we have Celeste. Even in a world of magic, some things are still rare and unusual. So what is a unicorn to do? Announce her presence to the world and potentially have poachers looking to saw off her horn? Or hide in plain sight at a Coney Island sideshow where most folk would assume her appearance was just part of an act? Over the years, the dazzling Celeste has grown into one of the more popular attractions on Coney. And while the applause from a cheering audience is appreciated, what keeps her waking up in the morning is the found family she's made at work. Karuba, the mermaid, Blockhead Lenny, Chicken Wing, Ted. These were her people. So when she discovered that one of her own sold part of their soul in order to cover a gambling debt, Celeste knew it was time to step out of the shadows and do whatever it takes to get it back. Is revealing her power to the patrons a risk? Yes, but that's tomorrow's problem. Her family needs help today. I actually really like Celeste's background, and I can't believe I haven't read it yet. There's a part of me that feels like I did, and I simply forgot. But I don't recall seeing it when I went back through the ones I've already read. Anyway, I'm sure we will see these side characters that were mentioned at some point, like Karuba the Mermaid, Blockhead Lenny, and I'm actually looking forward to kind of seeing them and their circus abilities. I think that would be pretty cool. But yeah, that is Celeste. Alright, next up we have Holiday. There are people who spend their whole lives dreaming about moving to New York. Holiday isn't one of those people. Content with being the sheriff in a small town, Holiday enjoyed a career where the only time she had to use her gun was when trick shooting at the county fair. Then the murders started. Grisly and inhumane, the bodies were found with their rib cages ripped open, their innards ripped apart as if by birds. Holiday tracked down the killer, a traveling folk musician that the media dubbed the Troubadour. But when she confronted him, he exploded into a murder of crows and flew away. That was 6 months ago. And while the murders in central Illinois have stopped, Holiday's investigation has not. She believes that the Troubadour is traveling to New York, and when she finds him, she's going to kill that evil son of a bleep. This backstory is actually very interesting to me because we get a lot of insight into Holiday's personality and some of the plot that revolves around her character. And I imagine we'll see the troubadour in the game at some point, most likely as a playable character, if I had to guess. But yeah, that is Holiday. Moving on to Mirage. The Jinn are one of the more curious groups of people in the modern world, possessing great power in controlled doses. Jinn are incapable of maintaining corporeal form for longer than 48 minutes without resting as a vessel. As a result, most Jinn employ human bodyguards for transport, protection, and companionship. Mirage is one such bodyguard. Employed by Jinn Ambassador Nashala Dion, Mirage is in New York on a diplomatic mission. It's the hope of the Jinn that they can negotiate with the US government for a sale of part of Wyoming so that they can build a sovereign nation for their people. My only question about this backstory is, why would you want to be in Wyoming? What's in Wyoming that they find so special? And will we find out? That is it for Mirage. Let's move on to Yamato. Yamato's backstory is written in Japanese in the Deadlock game. Translated, it reads, born to criminal royalty, Kaori and her brother Yamato always knew they were destined to run the seventh moon after their father's passing. For years, they ran the organization as equals, leading to profit, success, and plans for expansion to the United States. The idea was simple. Kaori would stay in Japan and maintain things at home, while Yamato would travel to America to set up an international presence. Unfortunately for the siblings, this plan didn't sit well with some of their more insecure underlings, who bristled at the idea of being led by Kaori in Japan. The coup was swift and violent. Yamato gave his life protecting Kaori, but in doing so ensured that she and a handful of loyalists were able to escape Japan for America. When she arrived stateside, the contact her brother was supposed to meet greeted her and her retinue. Unfamiliar with the gender of Japanese names, the man addressed her as Yamato. She thought to correct him, but decided the best way to keep her brother's memory alive was to take his name and live out his dream. This is actually the first time I'm reading Yamato's backstory, because I never sought out the translation, but I find it pretty interesting, and I'm excited to see where this story goes too. There are so many related characters in these backstories that Valve is setting up, and I just have to wonder when we will see more of them, if we will see more of them, and if they will all come together on the roster at some point in the future. But yeah, overall, I do like Yamato's backstory. I wish we had a little bit more to go off of. We don't really know too much of their personalities, but I like it nonetheless. That was Yamato. Pocket will be our next backstory for the night. Aaron Fairfax, the eldest heir to Fairfax Industries, has been living in hiding for the past 5 years after being shot and left for dead on their 18th birthday. Aaron doesn't know who's trying to keep them from taking control of their parents' company, but in the avarice-fueled viper's nest that is Fairfax Industries, it could be anyone. Taking on the name Pocket, Aaron desperately wants to keep their true identity a secret, not only for their own protection, but because they want to forge their own identity separate from their parents. I feel like Pocket is going to be one of those characters that is heavily tied into the main story of Deadlock, whatever that ends up being, just because of how many characters interact with them in the voice lines and how many backstories mention not even just Pocket but Fairfax Industries, and the map has a lot of Fairfax references, and I think there's even a statue of his father on the map somewhere. But I like Pocket's backstory overall. It doesn't reveal too much about his character, which I think is kind of the point. But I think it works, and I like Pocket as a concept as well. Next up is Shiv, a loyal member of the Baxter Society, an international order of monster hunters. Shiv travels across North America looking to put down creatures that prey on the living. While his less polished nature and criminal past make some of the more traditional members of the society wary, no one can deny his effectiveness. I feel like a lot of the personality of Shiv comes through when you look at the voice line interactions with other characters. That's when he really gets to shine as a character. His backstory doesn't really give us much, but through others we can learn that Grey Talon is also a member of the Baxter Society, or was, and Shiv is being trained to become the leader of the Baxter Society. I think Shiv just needs a little bit more time to cook, and then he will be quite an interesting character based on what we have with the interactions with others. That is Shiv. And next up we have Wraith. Wraith is a pretty interesting one as well. The cornerstone of the New York gambling scene, Wraith's organization is about as open a secret as it comes. However, thanks to a non-trivial amount of bribes, shakedowns, and blackmail, Wraith knows that she's above the law. I find it very cool that a lot of the roster respects Wraith, and she seems to be most comparable to like a common gambler criminal, mafia member sort of. And I think it really fits the vibe of Deadlock, and she has a cool aesthetic perfect for newcomers. That is Wraith. Last, but certainly not least, we have the best backstory in the entire game, Lash. Jacob Lash is an asshole. Not much more to be said on this one. So that was the remaining backstories that I had. I have now read all of the characters' backstories that are in the game so far, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I will quickly go over our night shift predictions from last week. I don't think I'm going to be able to make any for this week, and it probably won't be very accurate anyway, because there have been a lot of roster changes and qualifiers, stuff that makes it more confusing. But last week, these were our predictions. So for EU, they actually did not play a challenger game because there were not enough teams to fill the time slot. So we ended up just having Loki W versus Abrahams, and Loki W won 2-0. So we got that one right. And then in NA, Melee Creeps surprisingly beat FPSL even with a sub because Saya was not playing for that first game. They then proceeded to lose to Floormen, and of course I had FPSL winning both of those games, meaning I got them both wrong. But that's okay. This next night shift should be pretty interesting with all of the roster changes and new teams competing for a slot. But yeah, those are our predictions. I want to take this time to say thank you to everyone who watched and got this far in the video. I hope that this helped you relax. And I hope that you have a great night or a great day. Please let me know if you like the soft-spoken format, or if you would rather I just stick to the whispering. I don't mind doing a mix of both, and I'll probably do that anyway, but once again, thank you for watching, and sleep well. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.